Across Hennepin County, more and more renters are choosing smoke-free living, and landlords are finding the change can be healthy and economical.
Our experience has been very positive. Decorating is huge. You don't have to redecorate nearly as often. I think the positive now has become much more to the forefront is secondhand smoke, which is being pushed much more than it was years ago, and I think people are much more offended by it than they were years ago, and the awareness of it is getting greater. There was a recent seminar that they say it costs you 6 to 7 times more to turn an apartment over than to keep the people you're in. We like to talk of it as a home and everything, and we try to do everything we can to keep our people.
We are here at 3210 Girard Avenue South in Uptown Minneapolis, and this building is called the El Capitan of Warner Properties. It has 25 units, all 1-bedrooms, and here you can see us painting an apartment, a resident actually that lived here for a very long time, over 30 years, and because this building is non-smoking, all it took was 1 coat of paint.
Well, right away when you walk in the apartment, you can tell who's the smoker or who was the smoker and who wasn't. The apartment who had the smoker is usually very dirty. The walls are grimy or discolored and definitely need to be cleaned before you paint. The apartments where there's a non-smoker, the walls are usually in very good shape, and it doesn't take very long to paint at all in those apartments. I'd say with a non-smoker, one person could do an apartment this size in a day and a half. For a smoker, at least 2 days, maybe 2.5 days.
With a non-smoker, you don't have the smoke smelling carpet, and usually just 1 shampoo of a carpet once the resident is out. It takes away all the smell and stain, but with a smoker, even though the stains may be gone, that smell is in that carpet for good, and you have to replace it. This building has been non-smoking for several years, actually. What happened was a lot of people requested that they would like to live in a non-smoking building, and since most of the people in this building didn't smoke, once the last smoker moved out, we made it a non-smoking building.
I think they're starting to get the health reasons. I think that's starting to get out, that the dangers of secondhand smoke are there. I think also because in your public areas where you have non-smoking areas, people have started to enjoy the fact they do not like coming home and having their clothes, smell like smoke. There is a place for the non-smoking buildings, without a doubt. There are people who truly appreciate it and are looking for that type of environment to be in.
Some landlords, like Toby Sorrow in Bloomington, see smoke-free living becoming the popular choice of tenants.
When I purchased the building, the previous owner had a smoke-free building. He had a fire in 1992 caused by smoking. It's interesting, I had started that policy myself on another building that I own in St. Paul. I have not had any issues. I get some hang-up calls when they call on an ad, when they find out that it is non-smoking, but I advertise non-smoking, and generally all the tenants really appreciate it.
And we had looked quite a bit, in our price range, and we happened to be driving by here and we seen the sign out in the yard. We called him, or my wife called him, and he said, well, come over and see it. And we checked on it and we found out it was non-smoking. That was what we was looking for. We was in a smoking building, but no, it was bad. I stick towels under the doors at night to keep the smell out.
My costs are down. My cleaning costs are down. And that includes painting and carpet and replacement of carpets. Also, removing odors or getting complaints from other people about the smell of smoke being in the building. Also, anyone who walks in on the business aspect of it to take a look at the building, looks at the unit, doesn't smell the unit. No matter how long it takes you to make a transition to it, I would say and if you're owner of many buildings, at least have 1 or 2 of your buildings there. Because the thing that will happen in the future is that we will see less and less smokers. Tenants respond positively to no smoking. They, if anything, are ecstatic that there's someone out there giving them what they're looking for.
Our insurance is cheap for us too, and well, the landlord, you don't have to paint every year or every couple of years. The furniture, You don't have to clean it all the time, and I mean, there's a lot of advantages in not smoking.
I know the difficulty to quit, and I also know the choice to smoke as a smoker. But yet, I'm providing a service for the future, and I'm also providing it for the majority of our population. I believe that's where we're going. Smoke-free buildings.
Smoke-free policies are simple and easy to implement, even for a duplex owner like Mary Boyum.
I was a heavy smoker, and approximately in 1990, I quit smoking, and at that point in time, I decided that the building should be smoke-free as well. There was a lot of maintenance that was required to, wash the walls, etc., the windows with the residue of the smoke. So just practically speaking, and to support what I had done, I decided to go smoke-free. When I advertise, I put in a little blurb on no smoking. I seem to get many calls. It's not an issue. Some prefer it, as a matter of fact. I enforce my smoke-free policy first by informing them through the ad and through the discussion when interviewing for rental. And in addition to that, there is also a statement on the lease that requires no smoking. No problems whatsoever. Over the 23 years that I've owned it, I've had 15 days where I didn't have renters. I've not rented to people that I knew were smokers, but they rented in a no-smoking environment, and later I found out that they actually were smokers, but that they were perfectly fine with the building being smoke-free. So it hasn't been an issue. I would say that it's the economical way to go. You can paint less, clean less, have a fresher building, and it seems to be very positive as far as rental.
My fiance and I have lived here since June 1st, and one of the greatest appeals of this duplex was the fact that it is non-smoking. We lived about a block and a half away from here previous to this duplex, and it was a smoking place, and although we never smoked there, you could tell the previous tenants had. So that's what our greatest appeal to this place was, and it was the final decision in choosing to live here.
Tenants are adding to their list as they look for an apartment: location, quality, cost, and clean air.
It was important. I think the primary things we looked at when we came to see the building was the location, the layout of the apartment, but that was important. That kind of helped seal the deal, as that was a smoke-free building. When I signed the lease, we reviewed it, and there was information in there saying that smoking was not allowed in here. Reviewed that with the landlord, and we go through that each year when I've signed the renewal for the lease contract, as the reminder that it is a smoke-free building.
When I was first looking for apartments, price was a concern, location was a concern, parking was a concern, especially being in uptown Minneapolis where it can be pretty dense. Another thing that I felt valuable was to know that it was a smoke-free building. I wouldn't have any issues with my next-door neighbor or the person above me or below me smoking and have it creeping into my living space. When my friends come over and they ask me if it's okay to smoke, I say, well, it actually lets me off the hook, because then I'm not the bad person saying that you can't smoke, but it's a policy of the building that you're not allowed to smoke. So I'm actually glad that's there for me to use.
I would love to have the chance to choose a smoking or non-smoking building, because I would definitely prefer going to a non-smoking building. 2 of my children were born premature, so they have lung problems, and it's best to keep that away from them. And my mother also has asthma, so I gotta look out for them.
The legal foundation for smoke-free rentals is well established, and help is available to customize your own lease with smoke-free language.
And in Minnesota, the Department of Health has the responsibility for monitoring and enforcing the Minnesota Clean Indoor Air Act, and they have published a brochure on apartment living and non-smoking in apartments, and they have taken the position that it is permissible for an apartment owner to prohibit smoking not only in the common areas but in the individual unit itself. So basically the entire complex would be smoke-free. And the courts have said Smoking is not a right protected under the Constitution or under any of the human rights laws to date. So there is no constitutional right to smoke. You can be discriminated against as a smoker. If you have a non-smoking policy in your apartment complex, you can prohibit smoking, but if someone comes along as a prospective tenant and said, I'm a smoker, but I won't smoke here, you would be obligated to allow them to stay in the complex or to enter into a lease in the complex, because you're not discriminating against the person, but the act of smoking. So there is a model lease available, and it's available, I think, primarily through the Center for Energy and Environment located in Minneapolis. The work that I did on smoking and the rights of smoking and the laws affecting smoking was done in connection with the Center for Energy and Environment. Also, the Minnesota Association for Non-Smokers has a lease form that they distribute for landlords that landlords can review, and they also have additional information that landlords can look at to understand the issues better.
A healthy choice that tenants are looking for, and a great way to reduce your maintenance costs. Everybody wins. Smoke free.